as well as in the database table. So these 4 columns I'll take it as it is. As part of table type, we don't have any primary key concept. So I'm just creating the normal columns: employee ID, employee name, department number, salary, done. Okay. Apart from this, what you want? I want one additional column. What is the additional column? I want something tax. Okay. So let me create that. So I'll say tax. Let me give the tax as something decimal of something 8,2. That's all. So the structure of table type is different from what structure of what database table. Let me execute this. I'll say F8. Yeah, the table type got created. Okay, table type got created with how many columns? 5 columns. Done. Okay, so now let us create the procedure. Create procedure. Okay, I'll give the procedure name as something calculate tax. Calculate tax. So what is the requirement here? This procedure has to return me an internal table which contains how many columns? 5 columns. So what I'll do? I'll take one output parameter which is referring to this particular table type. If I refer to the database table, it contains only 4 columns, but I want to return what 5 columns. Because of that reason only, I created our user-defined table type. So create the procedure so and so. As part of this procedure signature, I'll take one output parameter, out I tab. What is the table type name? TT underscore EMP underscore what? Department. TT underscore EMP underscore department as also what begin as begin. I tab is equal to, okay, I tab is equal to select what are the columns you want? EMP ID. Select EMP ID. What else? Employee name. Select EMP ID, employee name, and then what? Department number. What else? Salary. Department number, salary. Yeah. Next, I have to what? Calculate one additional column, na? Tax. This is not a database column. Database column is we'll get the data from the database table, but this is not a database column, so I need to calculate it. So yesterday we have seen how to use if and if. In the last 2 classes, we have seen the syntax of what? If and if. Now I want to use what? Case and case. I can use that case and case as part of select query only. See the new syntax. Here I'll say select EMP ID, ename, department number, salary as part of my select query only. So I want to calculate the tax based on department number. Na? So I'll say case, try to understand. Case what? Department number. Case department number. Yeah, when what are the available departments in my table? 10, 20, 30. There are 3 different departments. Okay, so I'll say when 10. Okay, when 10, what I'll do then? Okay, the syntax is slightly different from a normal abap. Okay, when 10, then what I want to return the tax. Okay, so tax is calculated based on salary. So I'll say then salary into 0.10%, something like that. Okay, when 20, I'll say then what is the salary into what? 0.20. Okay, like that. Then I'll say when 30, then I'll say something salary into, yeah, salary into what is this? 0.30, something like that. 0.30. Else means in a normal abap we say when others, means if none of the when block is satisfied, control comes to what? When others part. So here also I'm using what else block. Else what do you want? Salary into, I'll say something 0.40. 0.40, done. Then here I'll say end as. Okay, so my procedure is returning how many? My procedure is having what? One output parameter referring to the table type. Referring to the table type. What is the 5th column in the table type? Tax. The first 4 columns I am retrieving it from the database table. This 5th column is a tax. Na? So I'll say here end as what? Tags. End as tags. Then here, that's all. From what is my database table name? EMP underscore department. Yeah, from EMP underscore department. That end for procedure is what? End. That's all. So this is the new syntax which we can use in hana database related to what? Select statement. Understood? This case and the case statement, not end case statement. I can use it as part of what? Select query itself. Let me cross check the syntax. Select employee ID, employee name, department number, salary fine. Then case department number. I am writing the combinations. Done. End as tax. So this is important. End as tax. What is the additional column in the table type? Tax only. Na? So the column name should match. End as tax from EMP underscore. That's all. Okay. So let me try to execute the procedure. Select the block. I'll say F8. Yeah, the procedure might be what? Created. The procedure might be created. Let us call this particular procedure. How do you call a procedure? By using the statement call. What is the procedure name? Calculate tax. Call calculate tax. It has, if I leave it like this, obviously I'll get an error because in hana database, all the parameters are what? Mandatory. So when I execute, I am getting an error. Wrong number or types of parameters in the call. itab is what? Not bound. So let me try to call calculate tax. I have to give a placeholder for the output parameter. Na? So I'm giving the placeholder. When I say F8, then I got the data. Yeah, you can see what is the output I got. I got an additional column tax, which we are constructing in my select query, and we are returning that. Done. Working fine. Working fine. Is it clear? So what I'm trying to show here is, the procedure is referring to an output parameter, is referring to a table type. This table type is expecting how many columns? 5 columns. That's the reason I am returning what? 5 columns in the internal table, and make sure that the column names are what? Same. Yesterday also we have seen the column name should be what? Same. So here EMP ID, ename, these are all what? Database columns. And this is the calculated column. End as what? Tags. This is the syntax for what? Case statement, which we can use as part of what? Select query. Any questions? Yes, Amit, that will come in the next coming sessions. Here we are creating the procedure in the SQL console. We are creating the procedure in the SQL console. Okay. So generally, what is the purpose of creating the procedure? Once a procedure is created in the hana database, I should be able to call it from what? abap report. So what are the procedures I have created from the last 2-3 sessions? I cannot call it from the abap report because this is not the appropriate place where we have to create the procedure. Just we are trying to understand the syntax. So in the next couple of sessions, we will create the procedure in a different place, where we can debug also. Here I cannot debug. I need to create that inside a package. I need to store that in a separate schema called as sys_big. Once you store in that, I can start debugging and I can start consuming it from what? abap report. So debugging is possible. That we'll start discussing the next week onwards. Okay. Right.
Here also, if I want to loop, then the same yesterday syntax, right? Sridhar?
Why you want to loop, Rambabu?
So,
The same syntax. Yeah, tell me.
Say I want to, I mean, more than one record. Say, you have written like this, no?
Correct.
So I need a loop. Say suppose.
Yeah.
So
what you have to do is, obviously we have to return the entire data into the internal table, loop your internal table. just like yesterday. Inside that loop and loop, you write the logic for calculating the value for additional column. Same, the logic could be same, but since I think yesterday you only asked how to use case statement here, so that's the reason I'm using it. I can use it in the yesterday's approach also, no problem.
But in this case, no need to use loop. In yesterday case, it was using.
Yeah, because yesterday what the approach I followed is, first I am pulling the entire data into the internal table, then I am processing the internal table by using loop and end loop. Here what I am doing, while reading the data itself, I am constructing the value for additional column. While reading the data in the select statement only, I am using case statement. Understood? I am not terminating the select statement here. Okay, select statement I've terminated here. So entire thing is select statement only. Okay. Vijay, coming to your question, no, we can't. What you are saying is, you want to create a local internal table. Okay, here that local internal table I cannot refer it in the output parameter. Simple reason is, in the output parameter here, whatever you are referring, it should be either standard data type. Okay, it should be either database table, okay, or it should be a view, or it should be a table type. So these things should be what they should be available before we create the procedure. What you are saying is, you want to create a local internal table inside the procedure, and that you want to refer to the output parameter. No, it is not possible. So you mean to say, assume that you are declaring some internal level itab1. You want to refer this itab1 here, right? So that is not possible. It will not recognize. It will give an error. Always, whatever you are referring here, this should be global. It should be either standard data type, or it should be a database table, or it can be a view, or it can be table type. Here, yes, obviously this will create the database object. So once it is created, it is reusable. Here I'm just referring. Here I'm not creating. I hope you understood. Table type is also reusable. Creation is only one time. Okay, so when do we go for creating the table type? If you want to reuse it in across many places, we'll go for creating the table type. But I cannot refer to the local declarations in the output parameters. It should be global. When I say global, it can be either the standard data types which are available, or it can be a database table, it can be a database view, or it can be table type created either using GUI or using SQL statement. Okay. Now let me introduce to a new syntax for this procedure. So here I'll say, what is that, Sandeep? Yeah. The another question is, Sandeep is asking, can we modify the procedures? That's what you're asking, right, Sandeep? Can we modify the procedures? Yes. Again, here it is not possible. Okay. If you store it in a package, okay, when you store it in a package, we have two things here: design time object and runtime object. So in future, if you want to provide some additional logic, yes, you can come back to the existing procedure and we can make the necessary changes. So procedure is always editable. We can, but not here again. It should be stored inside a package. So we need to wait for another 1 or 2 days for that. But the answer is yes. Table type in SC11, it's a normal thing, Vijay. How do you create the table type in SC11? So if you go to, I'm just connecting to application server. Acha. Okay. Amit, again, okay, another question is, can we refer to DDIC objects? Can we refer to DDIC tables and DDIC structures? Yes, we can refer. Yes, we can refer. But again, for that, I need to refer to the configured schema. Let me connect first. Oh, 1 second. Password is locked. Okay, done. So see here, I'll just go to this. Yeah. So I want to create a table type in what SQL. So this is a general thing we know in what normal abap. Okay, another I'm getting many questions. So here another point is what Vijay is asking is we created the table type. Okay, so where we can see the table types in HANA Studio in the procedure section under table type section. Yes, this is a table type we have created just now. What is the TT underscore EMP underscore department? Yesterday we have created these two procedures. So I'll try to refer them. I'll try to refer them in my what application server. I'm going to say in S11. So where do we refer? In the data type section, I'll say TT underscore EMP underscore department. So when I say F7, what is saying here? Does not exist. So as of now, my answer is whatever we create in the HANA Studio, I cannot refer. I cannot refer, but again, we need to wait for some time. We have a T code called as DBA cockpit. DBA cockpit. Okay, this is actually admin T code. If you go to DBA cockpit, yeah, here. Yeah, what is the DB user here? You can see what is the database user it is showing here. SAP abap 1. SAP abap 1. So I have collected some information. Even if I go to the system menu status, what is the schema it is showing here? You can see at the bottom. What is the schema here? SAP abap 1. SAP abap 1. Okay. So if you create the objects, inside a schema called as what? SAP abap 1, then we can create in the sense, suppose, yeah, in this S11, I'll go to S11. We have a table. Let me go to S11 first. Yeah, suppose here I'm having a table called as VBAK. Try to understand VBAK. Done. So we are able to access this VBAK table in the S11. Can I access this VBAK in the HANA Studio? Means yes, we can access, but we need to collect the configured schema. What is the configured schema? SAP above 1. If I go inside, yeah, here you can see in the table section, we have a table called as what? VBAK. So my answer is if you create that in SAP above 1, then we can see it in both GUI as well as what? HANA Studio. As of now, I've created that in what? Gensoft SQL. I cannot access it in what? S11. But going forward, maybe after 4 or 5 days, we will be referring to the DDIC objects also. So one of the question is, can we refer to the DDIC objects in our HANA Studio? Yes, we can, but again, there is a separate mechanism for that. We can refer. Okay, but the answer is yes. Amit, is it clear? What are the other questions? 1 second. Yes, we need not prefix with Z. That's what we are doing now, Vijay. So far, we have created many objects. We have not created anything starting with what? Z or Y. But if you create that in application server through GUI, compulsory all the custom objects, you must start with what? Z or Y. Otherwise, it will ask you for what? Access key.
Sridhar, if we create a Z table in SAP ABAP 1 package, so even though that is also no need to create a with G.
No, if you create using GUI, that is by logging into GUI, compulsory you need to start with Z or Y.
That is fine from there. I am asking about HANA Eclipse.
Yeah, HANA Studio, I need not start with Z or Y. If you create anything in HANA Studio, irrespective of the schema, I need not start with Z or Y. I need not. Okay, one second. If you want the clarity on that, yeah. Suppose, one second. Yeah, I'm creating the column table. Let me check whether the permission is there for me. Okay, SAP. Sorry.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So create column table. SAP abap 1.emp underscore department 1. I'll say. Okay, let me try to execute this. F8. What happened? The table got what? Created. Okay, so under what? SAP abap 1. Let me cross check that. Okay, there are too many tables here, so let me filter. I'm in SAP abap 1 now. I'll go to tables. Okay, I'll say filters. What is the table name? EMP underscore what? Department 1 now. Yeah, I have got the table EMP underscore department 1. Let me open the definition. Okay, so I created that in what? HANA Studio. Okay, now I'll come back to what? This SE11. Okay, I'll come back to this. Let me refresh. Right, so I'll try to open it here. EMP underscore department 1. Okay, when I say F7, what is saying here? EMP underscore does not exist. So even though I created in what? SAP abap 1 schema, where I created directly in the HANA Studio, still I am unable to access that in what? GUI. Now I'll do reverse in the sense, yeah, here I'll create. Okay, I'll give the table name as what? ZEMP underscore, try to understand. ZEMP underscore department 1. I'll quickly create the table. Then only 2 columns I'm taking. Done. What else I have to do? Enhancement category. Yeah? Then I have to use primary key, right? Okay. So save it. Check for the syntax. Done. So I have created the table through application server. Through application. What is the table name? ZEMP underscore department 1. Now let me go to HANA Studio. I'll try to refresh. Now you can see now. Am I clear? So what I'm going to say is, if you directly create in HANA Studio, I cannot access that in what? I cannot access that in what? GUI. But if you create through GUI, I can access both in GUI as well as what? HANA Studio. And that too, in GUI means whatever I create in GUI, I cannot access them everywhere in HANA Studio. It can be accessible only in that configured schema. What is the configured schema here? SAP ABAP 1. Okay, so more about this we'll discuss in detail when we go to reporting part. Okay, so just wait for some days. We'll start using the DDAC objects also. Yeah, Rambabu, is your point? Is your question is clear?
Yes, sir.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Papireddy.
Hello. Sir. Yeah, we are HANA Studio, right? We are using here.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, it's
Sir,
HANA
actually,
Studio.
we are using normal in ABAP. We are using, yeah, in HANA Studio, we have any submit the report for this?
We need to install this software. It's an Eclipse-based tool. It's an Eclipse-based tool.
Okay, I am new to this actually.
Yeah. But already I shared the recordings to you 3 days back only. I have shared the
Sorry, sir. Actually,
recordings
I'm
to you
busy with
previous
my
one.
work.
So just refer to that, you'll get an idea. HANA Studio is not a T code based here. It's a separate software. We need the administrator will install Eclipse software. In that Eclipse software, they'll install some HANA related plugins, and that we call it as what HANA Studio. Basically, for UI5 also we'll use the same thing, but there we call it as Eclipse. If you install any plugins into HANA, we call it as HANA Studio. But it's basically an Eclipse tool only.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. And we are not going to use your C11 right, sir?
We will. As of now, we are doing only native HANA development. For native HANA development, we must use only HANA Studio. We must use only HANA Studio. But going forward, in HANA database, in abap HANA itself, we have a concept called as AMDPs, stored procedures, what else? ALV IDA, CDS views. For all those things, we'll be using both HANA Studio as well as our normal SC11 all this. But for native HANA, only HANA Studio. Okay. So, all of you, is it clear? Doesn't mean that we don't use SC11. We will use in HANA also. Okay, but we have not yet came to that particular level. Okay, when you come to reporting part, ALV, IDA, AMDP, and CDS views, we must use both of them, HANA Studio as well as our normal SC11. Okay, yeah. Right, so now, so we understood how to create the table type, all those things done. Now let me go for a new syntax related to what the procedure. Just observe this. So far, what is the syntax I'm using for procedure? Actually, there is a lengthy syntax for the procedure. I'm not using all those things. So slowly I'll expand this. So far we are just saying create procedure name, and we are mentioning the parameter names, and then as begin, and we are writing some business logic. We are closing the procedure by using what end statement. Now I'll say, yeah, yeah, done. So I'll create the procedure. Observe here. Create procedure. What is the procedure name? I'll give. Yeah, insert underscore. Please mute your speakers, all of you. Create procedure. Insert underscore emp underscore department. Yeah. So what my procedure has to do is try to understand. My procedure has to insert the data into this particular table. What is the table? Just now we created emp underscore department, which has got how many columns? It has got some 4 columns. Or shall I take a simple table? 1 second. Instead of going for this table, I'll go for a very simple table. Yeah. Yeah, I'll go for this table. What is that? T department table, which has got 2 columns, department number and what? Department name. So try to understand. Department number, department, yeah. So create procedure so and so. Create procedure, insert underscore. I'll give the name of the procedure as something T department. You can give any name. Done. Then how do we insert the data into the table? My table is having got 2 columns. So by using the insert statement, you have to insert and you have to provide the values for both the columns now. So create procedure name. Here I'll say input parameter. Try to understand. Input parameter. Let me give the parameter name as something IP underscore department number. You can give any name. For your understanding, IP means you understand that as input. IP underscore department number. What is the department number data type here? Yes, integer. Department name is what? Character. So IP underscore department number. Also what? Int or integer. I can say any other thing. Then what else? Yeah. Input parameter IP underscore dname. I'll give it as something varchar of something 20. And your department name is also what? Varchar of what? 20 only. Done. Okay. Then I'll take one output parameter. OP underscore MSG. I'll say varchar of what? Something 100. Varchar of 100. Done. That's all. Okay, worker of 100, close parenthesis, done. I'll say, try to understand. Reads SQL data. Reads SQL data. I have not used this addition so far. Now I am saying reads SQL data as begin. As begin. So what is the agenda of this procedure? It has to insert the data into this table. Now. How do we insert a record? By using what? Insert statement, and this table is expecting 2 columns. So I'll say insert into, what is the table name? T underscore what? Sorry, insert into T department. T department values. What are the 2 input parameters I passed? One is IP underscore what? Department number. IP underscore department number, comma. What is the other parameter? IP underscore what? D name. Understood? My table is expecting 2 column values. I am supplying 2 column values. These 2 values are nothing but what? Input parameters. Done. Then what I'll do? What is the output parameter? Something OP underscore MSG. OP underscore MSG equal to, I'll give the message, record inserted successfully. Record inserted successfully. Okay, and also what? End. That's all. Okay, so I'm creating the procedure what? I'm creating the procedure which has got 2 input parameters. So what is the only change is we have used an additional what option, or we have used an addition called as what? Reads SQL data. Reads SQL data. So let me check whether the procedure is created or not. So when I say F8, done. Good. I got a error here, syntax error. What is the error? See, create procedure. The feature not supported. Insert slash update slash delete is or not supported in the read-only procedure. So we are telling the HANA database that this is the read-only procedure. How do we indicate that? By using the addition what? Reads SQL data. So if you are using the addition means, as part of this procedure, if you want, I can use only the select query, but I cannot use the DML statements. I cannot use the data manipulation language statements. I cannot use insert, update, and what? Delete. Okay? Am I clear? Reads SQL data means we are telling the HANA database that this is a read-only procedure. Read-only procedure. So what is the meaning? I cannot use a DML statement, but you are trying to use, it is saying, giving an error what? Feature is not supported, read-only procedure. So what you have to understand is, on syntax check of this procedure, it is generating the error. What is the error it is generating? The procedure is created as what? Read-only procedure. So no insert or delete or update statements are supported inside the read-only procedure. Okay. So what I have to do now? I want to allow this insert operation. So what is the change I have to do? Let me keep it as it is for your reference. So this is giving me what? How to give comment? Error. Because why error here? Because what? DML statements are not supported. DML statements are not supported in what? Read-only procedure. Read-only procedure. Now what is the change I'll do is, I can do the changes here only, but because it is not created, I can do the changes here only. But anyhow, I need to send the material. So insert so and so. I'll just comment this. How to comment? I'll use hyphen. Yeah. What is the change I have done? I'm commenting that reads SQL data. Okay. So when I execute this, I'll say F8. Then the procedure is successfully created. Let me close the other things. 1 second. Yeah. So I am able to create the procedure. Now let me check the number of records in this table. Also open data preview. We have only 2 records, 10 and what? 30. Now I'll try to insert a new record. So the procedure is created. I'll say call. Try to understand this. What is the signature of the procedure? It has got 2 input parameters and 1 output parameter. Okay, so call, the procedure name is what? Insert underscore T department. Insert underscore T department values. Sorry. In the parenthesis, I have to pass overall how many parameters? 2 input parameters and output parameters. I'll say 20, 20 comma, I'll give this value as what is that, department name. Yeah, department name I'll give it as something sales. Department name is what? Sales. Then I have to bound the output parameter, so I'll give the placeholder. Okay. So what happens now? We are trying to call the procedure. So when I execute, what is the message I got? Record inserted successfully. So what is the understanding here? We are passing 20 and sales. These two values will go and sit in the input parameter. What are the output parameters it is returning? It is bounded to this placeholder. What is the output parameter value? Record inserted successfully. So I got the message what record inserted successfully. Okay. I'll insert one more record. So if you see the table, if I refresh, earlier we have 10 and 30. Yes, now I got what? 10, 30, 20 also we got. 20 also we got. Let me try to insert one more record. I'll say 40. I'll give it as finance. I'll give it as finance. Execute this. Yes, again I got the message record inserted successfully. Check the table. Yes, we have 40. Now, if you see the definition of the table, what is the primary key in the table? Department number is the primary key. Na? This key is selected here. Department number is the primary key. Means it doesn't accept what? Duplicate values. So already in the table we have 10 now. Already we are in the table 10. So I'll say here, try to understand. I'll give this as something HR. Okay, so I'm trying to insert the duplicate value. Try to understand here. When I execute this, when I say F8, good. What happened? The calling of the procedure is failed. I got what? I got some system-defined exception message. System-defined exception message. What is that exception message I got? Unique constraint violated at a so-and-so position, at so-and-so line number and what column. So what is happening here? Unique constraint is violated. So SAP itself has displayed that particular exception message. Exception message. Am I clear? So what is my agenda now? My agenda is I want to insert the data into the above table and handle the exception for what? Unique constraint violation. Means what is happening here? If you're trying to insert the duplicate value, we are getting the system defined exception message. I want to handle that exception. So if you take our normal ABAP object oriented, how do we handle the exception? We know that exceptions are raised from the exception classes. I believe we use what? Try and catch block. Inside the try block, we will keep those statements where the exception might raise. And in the catch block, we'll handle the exception. Okay. So here in this case, I want to handle the exception. See the change that I'll do. Yeah. Let me copy the same procedure. See the change here. What is my agenda here is, if you're trying to insert the duplicate value for department number, it is stopping the insertion and we are getting what? Unique constraint violation. This message is given by what? The system itself. So my agenda is I want to handle that situation. So insert into department underscore T department underscore what? Handle underscore exception. Okay, I'll give some meaningful name, same signature. I'll remove this because I don't want to use, I want to use an insert statement. Yeah, everything is same. The only change I'll do is try to understand. As begin. Yeah, here I will declare the exception. Okay. 1 second. Yeah, unique consumer. Yeah, here I'll say declare. Try to understand. Declare exit handler for SQL exception. Declare exit handler for SQL exception. Begin begin. What is the output parameter name? OP underscore MSG. Yeah? OP underscore MSG is equal to, I'll give a message what? Record already exists. Record already exists, done. And also what? And I'll explain this. Done. Insert into so and so, record insert success. That's all. Let me cross check. Yeah, declare exit under for SQL exception, begin, OP underscore merge equal to record already exists, done. Okay, let me try to create the procedure, execute the procedure. Effect, yeah, the procedure is successfully created. I'll try to insert the, I'll try to call the procedure now, call so and so. Okay, I'll give the parameter department number as 50. Okay, and this I'll give it as something what, .NET something, .NET. Then after that I'll give the placeholder. Okay, so do you have 50 in the table earlier? No, no. Okay, I don't have 50. So 10, 20, 30, 40 is there. So what is the expectation here? This record is successfully inserted. If it is successfully inserted means, what is the understanding? Insert statement is successfully executed. I repeat, if the record is successfully inserted means what? What is the meaning? Insert statement is successfully executed. If it is successfully executed, what happens? Control goes to the next statement. This statement will be executed, and what are the messages that is assigned to the output parameter? Let me try to call F8. Done. Okay, what is the message I got? Record inserted successfully. So the record is successfully inserted, and even what happened? I got the message also. What is that message? Record inserted successfully. Now what I'll do? I'll try to insert the department number 20. 20 is already there. 20 is already there. Okay, so I'll try to insert. Call insert underscore so and so. I'll give 20 here. Here I'll say something what, production, done. So earlier what happened when you're trying to insert the duplicate record, here in this case, what happened? So here these two cases I got what? Success. Here also I got what? Success. Okay. Here what happened? I got the error. What is the error I got? Unique constraint violation. And this message is given by what? SAP itself. Unique constraint violation. Now I handle that exception. I'm trying to insert the duplicate value. Let's see what happened. F8. Try to understand. When I say F8, what happened? Record already exists. So I'm flashing a meaningful message to the user. Earlier what happened? Earlier it is stopping that insertion, and we got the system defined message. What is that message got earlier? Where is that? Yeah, unique constraint violated. So what I did now, what is the change I've done inside this procedure? I'm handling the exception. Okay, this is a way to handle the exception. In our normal ABAP, we use try and catch. You can assume this is similar to catch block. What we will do in the catch block, we are going to handle the exceptions. Again, if you go back to object-oriented ABAP, how do we use it? Inside the try block. Okay, inside the try block, we'll write some statements. We'll write some statements. And what you will do after this? No parameters. Yeah. Inside the try block, you will do something. And here you will say catch. And one point you have to understand. While defining the catch block, we need to provide the exception class which is raising the exception. So in ABAP, we know there are thousands of exception classes, and those exception classes starts with what? CX underscore. Okay. So as part of catch block, we have to give that exception class which is responsible for raising the exception. So we may not be aware of which class is going to raise the exception. So what we are going to do, if you are not sure about the exception class, we are going to give the parent exception class. What is that? CX underscore what? Root. CX underscore root is a super class, parent class, base class for all the exception classes. Okay. Similar to the CX underscore root, similar to CX underscore root, you can visualize this particular SQL exception. Okay, here what I'm doing, I'm defining the what catch block for a standard exception. Again, this is nothing but what standard exception. SQL exception means whenever the execution of any SQL statement is failed, whenever the execution of any SQL statement is failed, it is going to, which exception is going to be raised? SQL exception. So what I am doing here, I am defining the handler block. I'm defining the handler block for that particular exception. You can visualize this is similar to what catch block. So I'm defining the block here. What is the logic I wrote here? In my output parameter, record already exists. So when the control will come here, the execution will start from here only. Initially, this will not be executed. Remember, this block will not be executed. Or if you go back here, when the catch block will be executed, only when the exception is raised in what? Try block. When the exception is raised in the try block, then only the control goes to what? Catch block. Am I clear to everyone? If the exception is raised in the try block, then only control goes to what? Catch block. Otherwise, the catch block will not be executed. Similarly, here also, the control will not go to this block initially. It will never go to this block. Control the execution, it will execute the insert statement. Okay. If the execution of this SQL statement is failed, in the earlier case, what happened? It is raising the system-defined exception, unique constraint violated. But now what happened? Since we have defined the handler block for that SQL exception, control goes here, it will execute this business logic. What is the business logic here? We are assigning some message, and that message will be flashed as the output parameter. Am I clear? So I just gave a simple example on what? Exception handling. Next class, we'll see more about what exception handling, and after that we have to see how to create the procedure inside a package, how to call it from the abap program. Okay, so any questions in this part, please ask me. There are many things we have to discuss in that. We'll discuss that in the next class, but for today what you have to understand is, in the earlier case what happened, we have not defined any handler block. So the execution of the SQL statement is failed. Whenever the execution of SQL statement is failed, what happened here? It has raised the standard exception message. Standard exception message. So if the user gets this message, I assume that I'm a customer now. So if I'm a customer, by looking at this message, I don't understand what is that message. So when you are flashing any message to the user, it should be what? Meaningful. So what I did here, I have handled that situation. How did I handle that situation? I have defined the handler block for that particular SQL exception. And when this block gets executed, whenever the execution of this insert statement is what? Failed. Okay, the control goes to that particular block, it will execute that. Okay, in the next class, what I'll do is, I'll take one example. In that example, we'll deal with the standard exception, as well as we will declare our own exception, we will raise our own exception, we will handle our exception. In this case, what is happening? We are not going for our exception. SAP is raising one standard exception. Whenever the insert statement execution is failed, SAP will raise a standard exception called as what? SQL exception. So what happened here? Since we are handling that exception, the control comes to this particular block. If you are not handling that exception, what happens? SAP is going to flash what? The standard exception message. Any questions? And what is the other point we have discussed earlier? Reads SQL data. So why we have to use this means, why we have to, again, for this you'll understand in the next couple of sessions. Sometimes we'll create a procedure. Sometimes we'll create a procedure where you are sure that we are not going to use any DML statements. We are going to use only select queries. So if you are going to use only select queries, and if you are sure that we are not going to use any DML statements, so better we use the addition what? Reads SQL data. Even if you don't use also, the procedure will be created, we can call the procedure. But internally what happens is, some privilege checks it will do. internally the hana database will perform some privilege checks. It will do some checks internally to avoid that unnecessary checks. To improve the performance of your procedure execution, better we use addition what reads SQL data, provided if you are sure that we are not going to use any DML statements. Okay, am I clear? Otherwise, what happens is if you don't use this addition internally, it will perform some privilege checks. It will perform some privilege checks. To avoid that privilege checks, better we use the addition what reads SQL data and make sure that you don't use any DML statement. So as I told you, this is not the appropriate place where we create the procedure. We are going to create the procedure separate place. So there is some more things you have to discuss related to the procedure. We have other syntax also. We will be discussing the standard syntax maybe in another couple of days. May not be on Monday. Maybe on Tuesday we will see that the entire syntax for creating the procedure, which is the standard way. Okay. So next class we'll have it again on what? Monday. No class tomorrow. We'll have it on Monday. Practice all these things. I'll share this material also. I've shared till yesterday. I'll share this material. Okay. Monday we'll continue with the exception handling and the standard way of what? Procedure creation. Any question for today? Please ask. Yes, Papired, any questions? Papired, your voice is not audible to me. Are you speaking?
No, sir. No, sir. Yes, I'm looking. Sir, actually, we are using 4 columns, right, sir? Based on that department number, we need to get the tax, right?
First example, okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah,
so
tell me.
Here, so yeah, then we have written one select statement, right, sir? Yeah.
Correct.
Then what is this end as stack last? Else end as stack.
End for begin is what? End. End for while is what? End while. Okay. End for if is what? End if. Similarly, end for that's what? End for case is end as.
Okay.
Understood? End for while is end while. End for loop is end loop. End for if is end if. Similarly, end for yeah, tell me.
End for you can use end case, right?
That is a normal syntax we know in our normal abap. Now this is a new syntax. This is a new syntax which is supported in the hana database, which can be used as part of select query itself. What are the syntax we know is we don't use that in the select query. We use it independently. Case and what? End case. Okay. Here we'll say what when one do so and so, something like this. This is a normal syntax which we use in a normal application server. Now we are getting introduced to a new syntax. This is supported. This is recognized only in what? hana database.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other doubts, others? Why I'm saying end as tax wins? Simple understanding. Here the procedure is returning what? One parameter of type table type now. Table type is having how many columns? 5 columns. Table type is having what? 5 columns. For the first 4 columns, data is fetched from the database table itself. That's why I gave it select so and so. But the 5th column, it is not the database column. It is a calculated column. That's the reason I am doing the calculation and I'm returning that value in the form of which column? Tax. Here if I say tax 1, it will give error because in my return type, the column name is what? Tax. Here also the column name should be tax only. Done? Any questions related to this? This is very important. This is the way we are going to develop the process in the real time also. We must handle the exceptions. For every business logic we write, we must handle the exceptions to avoid the abnormal conditions.
Here,
Okay.
what is being procedure means create procedure means
Just like how do we define a subroutine? Form, end form. How do we define a function model? Function, end
okay.
function. How do we define a method? Method, end
Right.
method. Similarly, in HANA database also, we have something called as procedure. What is the syntax for creating the procedure? Create procedure, procedure name, parameter list. As between begin and end, we have to write the business logic for the procedure. It's a part of syntax. Right? So those who are not started practicing, start practicing. Okay, so we'll meet again on Monday. And one more communication. From Monday onwards, I'll try to start the class sharp by 6 o'clock. Sharp by 6 o'clock, because very soon I'm going to start another batch, another what batch at 7 o'clock. I need to start that batch exactly at 7 o'clock. So this batch, I need to start exactly at 6 o'clock so that we can wind up by 7. Right? So Monday we'll meet at 6 o'clock for discussing further on what? Exception handling. Chalo then, so I'm winding off.
This conference is no longer being recorded.